Yo, it's Dewan Dandridge, CEO of Black Lose Detroit, back for another episode of Speak for Yourself. We got our dynamic COO, Ken Elkins, a.k.a. Lace Front, joining us along with Ken Walker, our special guest. Ken, introduce yourself to the people, anything you want to share about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Ken Walker, as you mentioned. I'm a fashion designer based right here in Detroit. I founded K Walker Collective in 2018, and we just opened a store in November.
So wait, since you're a fashion designer, I want you to know, this our second show today, so we ain't wearing the same clothes from last week.
That's trending fashion, upcycling.
Oh, upcycling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we on trend.
Talk to me about upcycling. What is upcycling?
Upcycling means to reuse clothing and materials to actually recreate versus waste. So,
oh, nice. So you nice.
So he upcycle every day.
Upcycle every day. That's it. I might have started this trend. No, it's interesting. I saw a sister that's also an entrepreneur here in Detroit. She's on TikTok, has about 41,000 followers, and what she does, she'll take a garment and flip it and turn it into like 5 different pieces. The same garment.
Yes, okay.
I was like, she showed me a video. I'm like, dude, she took a shirt, turned it into 3 different types of shirts, a wrap skirt, and something else, like a head wrap or something. I was like, amazing.
Yeah, because fast fashion has like really polluted the environment more than we see, and we know that. And a lot of people, we waste a lot of more clothes than we think. You know, think about stuff you don't wear no more. They're just sitting in boxes and myself on storage. But a lot of the industry is really changing to be more sustainable as well, even the luxury brands as well.
That makes sense. Well, you mentioned your business. Where can they find you?
Yeah, I am on in Midtown, so Cass Avenue between Cass and Willis. Online at kwalker.co, social media kwalker.co.
So when they look you up, what are they going to be able to find? What's some of your signature pieces?
So K Walker Collective, the name is from the design language. So actually the namesake, of course, K Walker, but collective came from the design language of street comfort and refined look. So I wanted a brand that encompasses all of the styling and the range of clothing that a lot of young professionals want, but essentially can't find in one brand. So I got just about everything.
And your store is new down in Midtown, right? Yeah. It's new. How long have you been here?
We've been here since November 26th, Small Business Saturday.
Okay.
Nice.
And so what made you pick that location? And then how did you even, like, what makes you even say, okay, I'm ready to go into a brick and mortar? Just talk to us about that whole journey.
It started in 2020, actually. I was a stockist in Detroiters in the Black when they were open in Woodward. That was the first store I was physically in for right before the pandemic, actually. In February was when I was first I had a whole rack in the store. Then the store closed because of the pandemic, and then she reopened in that fall. But in between that time is when I kind of had that itch, like, how can I create my own brand experience in a brick and mortar? I was already online for 5 years, and I saw, for me as a customer, I like, it's called omnichannel, when you have essentially a touch point with that brand in multiple places.
Okay.
So we know how it is to go online or have the mobile app from a brand, but nothing beats experiencing a new brand. So for me, that was when it initially came. And in Techtown, they have it's called Retail Bootcamp. So I actually did that, and a lot of other like notable brands in the city of Detroit went through the same program. And then fast forward to I think it was like late 2021. I wanted to be in 7 Mile and Livernois. That's literally where I had my heart set on opening, because I was born and raised 7 Mile in Telegraph, and my heart was there. But Midtown chose me because in my network, I would just talk to other business owners about me wanting to open a store. And Sue Nosey, who's like the mayor of Midtown, I met her through Laura, who owns the Fern Boutique on New Center in Woodward. And it just, for me, it's full circle, because I went to high school 2 blocks away from where my store is. So Detroit School of Arts. Cass Corridor wasn't walkable in 2009 when I got out of high school.
Right.
And for me, it was just like, wow, like I can be a part of the renaissance and really be a part of this narrative to tell younger black boys and girls that want to go into fashion too, that it's attainable and accessible.
Beautiful.
It's a dope story. DSA, back to coming full circle. I love that, right? And Cass Corridor is walkable for some folks.
For some folks. Not everybody.
So I guess talk a little bit about like your experience, interaction with Black Lose Detroit, right? And how'd you hear about us?
It was Detroit Drip. That was the first time. I had heard about just the organization overall, and then Detroit Drip was the first event that I actually saw that was put on by Black Leaders Detroit and Huntington Bank, and it was dope because I remember just the people I met there. You know what I mean? Just this. I always see a lot of entrepreneurs, but we all connected, you know, me and other designers there, you know, which is always a breath of fresh air, honestly, because sometimes as creatives, we don't always see each other. Everybody's kind of got their heads not working, doing things. But to showcase our, like, actual pieces and then have people vote on it, I thought that was just, like, game changer. I had never done that before.
That's what's up, man. That makes me feel good.
yeah, that is. But like you kind of the deal I've been noticing, cause I think I first noticed you when we were at, what's the event at Punch Train? What was that Punch Train, right? The event that you got the award for.
That was, the Black Media Leadership. Black Leadership Council.
Yep. So you had won an award there, and then that's when I first saw it. I was like, okay, that's cool for that young brother. And then the Detroit Drip, so you're like, oh, that was a young brother. And then just saw your CMU. Yeah. You won an award for their event, so you just running stacking up trophies.
Yeah. My trophies actually working.
That's what's up.
Keep going.
Yeah, so tell everybody, Kim, what Detroit Drip was, right? Mm-hmm. They're watching and they didn't get a chance to experience it last year for themselves.
So of course, Detroit Drip was just an event that Black Leaders Detroit wanted to host to pretty much support black businesses in fashion. So whether it's retail stores or fashion designers, just really give them an opportunity to A, showcase the work that they're doing, but then B, give them an opportunity to network with each other, and C, put some money in their hands, right? So we had a competition, a fashion competition. The winner out of 5 different categories got to win $5,000. We actually did award another check because we had a tiebreaker. So it's just a really cool event to celebrate black fashion. And it went, as you mentioned, it went a lot better than we actually expected ourselves. Not from the aspect of providing that space and you all getting to share your work, because we knew that would happen. But from what we heard from all the designers, that networking piece, that family piece that they were involved, that you all were involved of, and we got a chance, not being creative, fashion creatives, to be a part of it too.
Yeah.
Right, to sit in it too.
To be in space with y'all.
That's really dope.
It doesn't Yeah, and I think that was always the disparity for myself and a lot of the fashion designers, is like, finance is so important in growth and scaling a business, and I always feel like it's I call it building the business around the art. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not until we have like an accountant like myself. Like I had an accountant since I launched my brand, but when we're at that point of trying to scale, sometimes a lot of brands struggle on articulating growth goals. Yeah. So like with a Huntington Bank, you know, I just love what they've done in the city of Detroit. I went to the branch on Woodward. Drusilla Fanning is one of my favorite bankers, and now she works at the tower now. But you know, we had a good conversation, you know, and it was just, you know, I think Latrice, she's like really head up at Huntington Bank.
Shout out to Latrice. Latrice is on our funding board, and she's putting their work out there.
Yeah, and they get into the neighborhoods, they ask us questions, because I had designed a jersey for the Pistons G League team, and she was there at one of the games, one of the last games from Motor City Cruise, and she wanted to know about my brand. She's like, I want to stop by your store. It's fly open. And you don't get people at banks that are interested. You feel like you're pushing them. That was a breath of fresh air. So when I saw that they were partnering with you guys with that, I thought that was just even more incredible, because it just shows the intention.
Yeah, for sure.
So to talk about that, even because we like to address the financing piece, you know, how difficult did you find it to get capital to not only launch a brand, to launch a brick and mortar store? Like, talk about that experience.
It's hard, man, honestly, because I've spent the last 10 years working in marketing, so I have an actual career, and I created this brand in the midst of that, because it was always a childhood dream. I went to college, got my degree in advertising, worked at all these firms, worked on all these brands, and then I was literally in a meeting in 2017 for Harley Davidson in Milwaukee, and I feel like God asked me what did I want, in that meeting, and I wrote down on a piece of paper I wanted this brand. So essentially, I started to kind of use my skill sets to build the brand, but then I got really resourceful because I almost went to fashion school in LA, and Nick Varios, who was on Project Runway, he was an alumni at the school. He had a book signing that day. I'm telling you, it was all divine. And he was like, "You came all the way from Detroit for this open house?" And I told him, I was like, "Yeah, I want to, I'm trying to figure out like how to branch into fashion, but me, I feel like I'm strong in the business side of it. I know the marketing piece, consumer audience, but I know the art is really important." And he kind of just looked at me and was like, "Do not go to this school to validate you as a designer. A lot of designers don't think of themselves as a business owner." So he was like, "You should actually go back to Detroit and be a big fish." I'm sure there's not a lot of brands that are thinking that way. So I came back, and when I was about to launch, I had a cousin of mine who was like one of my first seed investors. He saw my presentation, and because I had to develop a presentation and get it to the fashion school. Okay. That actually turned into my first business plan because I was articulating what is K Walker Collective, who's the target audience, what do the collections look like, how will we market the brand, etc. So he gave me a lot of advice because he was like the CFO for the Dallas airport, and he really was just like, you should really start small. You know what I mean? This could really be big for our city. And from there, honestly, I was using all of my own capital for almost 7 years because
like a lot of entrepreneurs do.
And honestly, Ralph Lauren, it was something he said that stuck with me in 2020. He said he had one investor that gave him $50,000 the year before he went public. When he opened the Park Avenue store, one of his financial advisors said, "You need to buy him out because you're about to go public." And now Ralph Lauren solely owns Ralph Lauren Corporation. It's a company. Mm-hmm. So for me, and I remember when I was in high school at DSA, Ralph Lauren Polo was my favorite brand. But I studied him as a business plan because we knew how like Tommy Hilfiger went bankrupt. So I just always learned the business side of this, and I get so fascinated by it. And I took pride in like this black entrepreneurship because you got people like Diddy and Jay-Z, Russell Simmons, all these people that have gotten to this industry and they get right out because they don't really learn how they could really have some ownership in it if they were to hire other designers and etc. So for me, I felt pride. I'm like, well, I'm gonna just use what I'm gotten for this salary from this job, and even up to open the store, I spent like almost $60,000 to get that store open. Okay. But I took pride in it. You know what I mean? I got a higher paying job, but I was like, I'm gonna get this higher paying job to put it to my business. Yeah. It was the time I wanted a Mercedes, but I was like, I want the store more. Yeah. And I had a time when it was other people telling me like, wow, you're putting a lot in it, but what's the return on investment? And I was like, I'm making younger me proud because when I was 15 in high school, nobody told me it was possible. I thought I had to go to New York or LA. Right. So now, you're doing it here your own city. Yeah, it's a while. So yeah, I haven't had like that like a bad moment when it comes to financing. But it gets different about what the return on investment is. And getting capital, I think I've learned. I went through a lot of different programs. Hatch, which was Comerica's program. B3 Elevation was sponsored by Chase Bank. I went through a lot. Rebrand Cities by Hodge Flemings. Like a lot of them equipped us. Like I think Shelly Bell from Blackboard Ventures, she gave us a whole spiel about like why it's so hard for black people to pitch our businesses to venture capitalists. And she gave us like a whole spiel about here's the key thing. She had all of us pitch on the spot. Oh, wow. So I kind of just learned all these skill sets. So now I'm at that stage now of like, well, what do I need from them so I can scale, Nice. Versus like, let me not just get somebody who's going to help me do all these things and not have an ROI. So it's just been a journey. But I think when we stop making it all about like being in it just to make money, you start to really learn like when you're pitching, that's what they want to see, the passion, So when I bought Shark Tank, I see the ones who win because they passionate about it. Right. They know like the back of their hands. Yes. It's not about the money. And even if I think it was one episode I watched when Damien was like, I really want to take this on because you're passionate. Let me just be let me get more ownership in this brand. So it's just really interesting learning how passion can really be that thing to drive the success of the business.
Nice. Now you said something about Ralph Lauren. I want to ask you about a segment that you said. I probably shouldn't ask you this because your cousin is watching. Did you shoot them back their money? Cause you said, okay, you did. All right. Cause
No, he knew. He didn't try to interest me. He just knew I was, at the time I was broke. It was 2 years out of college. He was like, let me give you this.
so they don't got ownership. So you got your own ownership.
I just want to shout out that cousin. We don't want to say your name in case some of the other cousins watch. We don't want them to hit you up. You know what I mean? But I just want to shout you out. Like, I have family members that I've had to go to at times as well. And some told me no.
Yeah.
And God bless them, love them, cool with them. But, you know, there was a few that was like, yo, they believed in me enough and the work that I was doing enough to help. And they got paid back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, shout out to you, cousin.
Yeah.
Watching from, I mean, cousins already know who you are because you told them where you work. So, you know, they narrowed down. No, that's huge, man. That part is really huge. I think one of the things that is close to your heart and on your mind is mental health, right? Especially like for black men in particular. So, just share your heart on kind of what your process when we were talking, what made that one of the things that you wanted to touch on today?
Yeah, honestly, that's what birthed my brand, was the self-love journey. In 2017, I was working at this marketing firm prominent in Detroit, and I became like the face of diversity. You know, I think we all go through that. And I had
that's a heavy weight to carry.
To carry that for a predominantly, white company, 100-plus-year-old company that's never done well when it comes to D&I, and I was the face of it, but when I got into marketing, it was because I wanted to get into marketing, not to be a D&I leader.
Right.
But that came with a lot of like stress, and it wasn't articulated until I actually went to therapy for the first time in that year, and my therapist was like, "You're burned out." And I was like, "What is that?" She was like, you're taking on a lot of different things, but when you leave that job, you don't have nothing left for you. So in those therapy sessions, she was like, what really drives you? And I talked about my brand that I didn't create yet, and it took about 7 months of going to see her that I launched the brand. After that, like literally 7 months. So in June of 2018, we launched the brand, and she was there at the show. She was like, "Do not tell nobody I'm your therapist." She was there in tears. She was like, "This is what you were, supposed to do," and I wanted other people to feel how I felt, how empowered I was, to have this audacity to go out and believe in myself and to make something that was a dream come to fruition. But I know for other creatives, especially black creatives, we deal with a lot up here that we don't put out to the world. And sometimes we don't even have, I call it brave spaces, to really communicate what stresses us out, what causes depression and anxiety. And I wanted to normalize the dialogue with that too. So essentially in 2019, I really just started to kind of do more community efforts. I got like city council, pastors, and other, mental health advocates all together. And that's really what it was. This is right before the pandemic, where it was becoming a topic to talk about, and I can mean like people like Charlemagne, people who use their platforms to really talk about it. But I met David McCullough from its inception. He's a mental health gym, and he's dope, but he was at my first event. Q Morgan's a big influencer. All these people that I felt were having similar struggles but could really articulate and influence other people to do the same. It really became an important thing and a pillar for me personally to communicate. And then I remember at that fashion show, June 8th, 2018 was the same week that Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade both committed suicide. So and I remember, and I watched a video from my speech, and I don't know why God put it on my spirit, but I said, and that's why I'm like, mental health is real, y'all. I don't know why I said it, but I remember seeing it on like with that, because I was like, "What are we gonna talk about?" I was like, "I don't know, whatever comes to my head." And I talked about it, and I kind of just told them like, "Well, y'all are here at this fashion show because I was in a therapy session, and I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I had this vision, and I said I'm gonna be the Black Ralph Lauren, to her. She's like, "Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that," and we got to that moment. So for me, it's empowering, especially as black men, to have those brave spaces to really communicate what stresses us. But it's also different forms of therapy. After, that was 5 years ago. I've had like 2 therapists since then, but there's other ways to get it, taking some more time for yourself, self-care. I know that's become overused, but even going to the barbershop, you know, nothing beats like getting a haircut to me. Like that's always just the confidence booster. But the session of going to the barber, you know what I mean, I tell my barbers, like, you actually are like a therapist. Like, we talk about all the stuff that we got going on, you checking in on us, like, we talk about family and things like that. So yeah, I just always want to be I call it a mental wealth activist, because, you know, there's wealth. We always say health is wealth, but, you know, your mental wealth is really when you're taking investments for you and time and making sacrifices that are, you know, seem to be selfish, but it's important.
Yeah. I think that's, like you said, it does come in various forms of ways to practice, right? Yeah. To practice therapy. Yep. As you're saying, you know, I'm from the older generation, so, you know, of course, we were taught, you know, you just brush your shoulders off, you keep it moving, you know what I mean, and hey, move on to the next thing, you know, be tough, you know, and shake it off, right? And so, you know, that's still how I move to this day, in all honesty, you know, and it wasn't until some things that started to happen and talking to different people. I remember I got a knucklehead mentee. I don't like that much, but he used to tell me he would go and he would just do meditation. The first time I heard of a black dude who just took time to go sit and meditate, and he from 3rd Street, and I wouldn't even think he would do something like that, right? But that's what he did to get himself together. And I was like, wow, and I respected that. So he took time to go be by himself and meditating and collect himself. And then we were on the bike ride for the very first time, and it was just God put Jason next to me while we was riding, because I was going through a lot. And he put him next to me.
Jason Wilson. So shout out Jason Wilson.
And then and we just started talking. And he was just like, you know, like, just talk to me about crying. And he just talked to me about crying. I was like, you know, just tell me how important it is to do that. Right now, I know how God works. So he told me that. And now I'm like, oh, I hear you. And then, so then we riding. It's like our first big ride.
It's rough, right? Because it's like, knowing Ken, like, if the average dude says something to Ken about crying, Ken is going to make some inappropriate joke, right?
Right.
But, like, Jason Wilson, you can't do that to him. You can't do it. No, you can't. You can't listen to him. You can't just flip him off and be like, make some type of joke, because like, he could be like, well, we could just park these bikes and wrestle if you want to, and fight if you want to. It's like, that's not going to go well. It's like, so kid, like, I'll just cry. I'm going to try crying.
And so, but it was cool, because he talked to me about it. We on the bike ride. Then I think at this point, I'm lagging behind Dewan. Who was what he said that time?
Jeremy,
Dewan and Jeremy. And so I was like, y'all just go. You know, y'all just go. And then they left. They left me, suckers, but they left me. And, but it all happened for a reason. So I had probably about an hour to just ride and cry. And it was because God put Jason in me to tell me that. And then I was able to let them go, and I could just ride and reflect on what I was going through at that moment. And then what we're saying is just different therapy. I'm riding, listening to the road, listening to just focusing on what's in front of me. Didn't have any other things but the road and focusing, and I was able to cry and just cry. And then the more tired I got, the more I just started to relate that to everything that I had pushed through to get me to this moment to where I was today riding my bike, right? And it was just, when I got there, it was just funny, because when we got to the end of the ride, I'm crying. They're like, "King crying because he made it." That wasn't how I was crying. You know what I mean? I was crying just because I was able to reflect, finally, on everything that I'd been through, and finally do what the man told me to do. And take a moment to cry, right? And so it was that therapy moment. Like, I don't think, to be honest, I'm not sure if I would reach the point to where I will go see a therapist. I see huge value in that. But again, I'm from a different generation of folks. I'll always be transparent and honest in that. But to understand, and I say this to say, because again, old folk like me, we don't see sometimes you think, I'm not going to go see a therapist, but as Jason told me, there's other ways that, like you just said, to get that therapy, right? Yeah. And how important that is to get that therapy, right? So, to add to that fact.
That's good. Yeah, so me personally, I think that sometimes my wife points out that I do a lot of self-care. But I do, like my wife and kids are very generous to me, and they brought me like a massage chair that has a Bluetooth to it, and I can just hook up my whatever I want to listen to while I sit in the massage chair and just relax. I do spend time meditating, like the very wise mentee that you have that also practices that. But I'm also part of a men's Bible study, a men's Bible study that's we've been meeting for 20 plus years. And that's kind of the space where we come and we're like really, really real and honest and raw, and nobody brings their titles or their masks in there, right? So like nobody is the senior believer or whatever that's supposed to be. So nobody has to bring in the pressure of pretending like they have it all together. You know what I mean? And it's really, really refreshing. We meet on Saturday mornings, and that's the place where I can go and share any and everything I'm going through, and other brothers do the same thing. And it's been a huge part of just whatever spiritual and mental success that I experience, or normalcy, or whatever that's supposed to be.
It's a brave space.
Yeah. Exactly.
Women always had that, you know what I mean? Yeah. One of my first therapists told me that. She was like, I get a lot of black women here. Yeah. You're the first black man that's sat in this chair. You know?
Wow.
She would really say, I'm proud of you for knowing something's wrong and you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I was 27 at the time. You know, I never had nobody tell me to talk about my feelings and be vulnerable. Like I read Brene Brown, like a few books that she wrote, and it's the power in that, you know. And
she's a beast.
When you can channel that, especially as a creative, you have to be vulnerable. Yeah. So when I'm developing clothes, I got so caught up in my own vision that when you're vulnerable, you're like, well, let me get an assistant, you know. So I got a design assistant who younger than me, who's like, oh, actually that's trendy. No, we should do this, you know. So that's vulnerability, you know. Okay. I was, saying to myself, and like I got, it's my way or highway. Like a lot of men do when they get in power. Yeah. I let go of that, you know. Nice. And a lot of billionaires that we see, they don't just delegate to hire, they delegate to change makers, to decision makers for them, because that's how they've grown. You know, Steve Jobs didn't know nothing about a computer, he didn't know how to sell one. You know, so you know to delegate and how to utilize the best in everybody around them. Yeah. So it's definitely it's impactful.
That's good. Another champion for mental health is Bill Real. A good friend of mine that's also a local creative. I don't know if y'all have crossed paths or not yet, but just want to shout him out as well, and definitely Jason and you for taking it seriously, but also publicly talking about it to others, because you're not the only one dealing with it. You know what I mean? And for Jason to be able to be alongside of you that day, and me just knowing a little bit about kind of like what all was happening in your life at that time, I just felt like you coming on to the team at that time when we were getting ready to do the ride. I just feel like I should have been the one crying. You know what I'm saying? Because I had to deal with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm just like I should have been crying. I probably need to know in an hour. You know what I'm saying? Sounds like a good experience. Yeah, no doubt. So there ain't enough haircuts in the world. You know what I'm saying? To get you over that. I'm just saying. Anyway. Your face when you say it. I thought you were about to say something serious. We do need to go to break. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll get serious with y'all. Detroit Sip is the community's coffee shop. It is located on 6 Mile between Livernois and Wyoming. Inside, you'll find free Wi-Fi, sweet and savory treats, and drinks to celebrate the city of Detroit. Let us be your home away from home. Let us be your home away from home or workspace. Printing options are also now available. We are open every week, Thursday through Sunday. Follow Detroit Sip on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are much more than a cup of coffee and have the best customer service around. Come chill with us. Inspiration is just a sip away. So we're back, obviously, and we wanted to jump back into talking a little bit more about your business, who's been supporting you, how has business been, and that's got to be exciting. I mean, like, you're in really, really a prime real estate space, you know. But Ken, you had a question about.
Just exactly what Dewan was saying. You know, what has your clientele looked like? Who's been supporting your store so far since you opened?
What's been really surprising, initially it was college students.
Okay.
Like Wayne State's right there. I'm a part of the adjunct faculty at CCS, so I had students, you know, that would saw my sign going up and like, that's my professor's sign, you know. It was really cool. But after the last couple of weeks, I've seen a lot of like core Detroiters who just started coming downtown, seeing what's down here, and I had a few that came in a little older than myself, but they were just surprised. Mm-hmm. There's a clothing store here, like Casporto, and that was really refreshing because then they know people and then they bring people back. Then I would have Uber drivers that would tell their girlfriends, and a girlfriend comes back and she shops. So I'm learning that the word of mouth is really important. You know, you can't just be there and expect foot traffic to come. It's like, what are you putting out? What's the message about the store? We did a really big push in the press, so my publicist like got it in all major pubs, from Cranes, Free Press, like everybody did articles on it. So I get a lot of people that are like, they're shopping in Midtown, you know, so so that's been really interesting. Now I'm in the stage of kind of really seeing it as the weather breaks and getting to spring. What is the natural traffic, you know, who's actually coming in and actually, you know, looking at pieces and coming back to buy something else. But it has been really interesting seeing that the local, like, group of people there is very diverse, you know, so you get students, you get people that work at the hospital, you get other business owners, other creatives. So it's really, really interesting looking at how to leverage that, but also to really think of, like, what can I be doing in that community more to really attract, you know, for different audiences too.
So this is interesting. So do you find that we as black people are supporting more black brands? And this is where this question comes from, and I could be ignorant to it, so let me open up with that. It's sort of like when I look at brands like, say, Sean John, right? Like, I see young brothers wearing Gucci and Versace and, you know, all these other high-end, big-price designers, but not Sean John or Truck Fit is
Lil Wayne's, yeah.
Lil Wayne, or, now I'm not saying he's black-owned, but black-supported, or, you know, Sean John, Trunk Fit, Rockefeller, Rockaway when that was in, all of our stuff seemed to just fade out. This made by black, big-time icons and fashion designers. I don't know why Sean John should just fade out, but it seems like young brothers who like to spend money on clothes don't buy that as much as they buy Gucci and those type of things. So why is that? Why don't we support our own brand, or do our own brand, like, say, Kanye brand, when he made it expensive, then people start buying it? So is that it? It has to be overly priced for us to buy it? What is it?
Yeah, we buy a lifestyle. Okay. So we're not even buying the garment. You're buying, what does it say when I see 2Gs on my sweatshirt or my boots or whatever? Like, you're buying a lifestyle. And that's the psychology around, I mean, I teach about that in my class too, because it's the psychology around luxury and what that exudes. And it was actually Coco Chanel who actually coined the phrase luxury, which is, she says, the opposite of vulgarity. And it's really interesting, like, especially like just black people overall, we consume a lot of that stuff. You know, that's why Dapper Dan is so high up at Gucci now, because he took what they were doing, monograms, and made his own in Harlem, and now they built off him, so they put him as part of their board. But yeah, we buy lifestyle. You know, that's why we buy Mercedes. That's why we buy all of these different things. You know, even jewelry as well. You know, I think that's really, you know, something where we want to feel like the kings and queens that we are. So luxury is something we feel like we owe to ourselves, to feel like we're exuding a higher lifestyle, even if we can't afford it. We're gonna go out of our way to buy these different things because it says something about us and the status that we want to be at. I think it's just interesting now because even though we do have premium brands like Tofar that are making products that are actually more accessible than the Louis Vuitton bag, but he has done such an interesting thing of, like, I'm never going to raise my prices.
That's a black designer.
Yeah, black designer. You know, Tofar's huge, you know, but he created that brand in 2005.
Okay.
And it didn't pop off until he made the bag with the TC on it, and it's popped off since then. But, you know, you have brands like him, Hanifa is another. She's a more luxury, more inclusive, like curvy women's brand. You have Pure Moss. You got Off-White. Virgil. Virgil was interesting because Virgil came, into the industry saying like, I want to make streetwear, but make it in the same factories as Gucci. So I want to get better quality. And I think that is something too that I think more of us are cognizant of too. So we're getting tired of just like people putting a graphic on a Gildan tee and saying this is my brand. Right. We know like when we feel a Gucci shirt, it's a Gucci shirt. Like it's something different about it. But it's interesting because I want people to get away from this stance of like, let me support black business, just patronize them. I don't never want to oversell a product. If you don't like it, bro, I ain't gonna sell it to you. That's it. Right. And because I know when I shop other brands as a clothing designer, I'm looking at their fabric and stuff like that, and I ask some questions, and then whatever your price is, that's your price. That's $200. That's $200. But it is still the stigma around like because I know you and I look like you. You charging $200?
Right. That's exactly it.
That's a problem.
That's exactly it.
You don't know Ralph Lauren. You don't know Gucci, so you gon' or whatever.
Is that a angry black man?
That's an angry black man because this is what you said. Because I know you. So man, you can charge me $300.
So we need to unpack that a little bit more, right? And Ken, feel free to jump in at it. So we have a segment that we call Angry Black Man or Angry Black Woman, right? And it's one of those things where oftentimes we're shamed for being angry, and it's like, you're going to be the angry, label this. And our thought is, we have things to be angry about. So I'm not going to be shamed about being angry, right? But I'm also not only angry. I'm a lot of other things. But I'm okay with being angry when it's time to be angry, right? So it sounds like that's one of those things that makes Ken angry. So can you unpack that a little bit more on what that looks like? And Ken, feel free to jump in as well. So
yeah, I mean, I think for me, I got out of this mindset of that I'm creating clothes for my friends. I want to be a global brand. So if I want to be global, I have to put things out into the world and I have to see what different people think about it. So the beauty of where I am now, there's a fair amount of different people that don't look like me walking into that store asking questions that are sometimes my staff don't know how to answer, you know what I mean? But it challenges me to think like, wow, like, okay. But if you go to, a higher end store, the staff, they're client advisors, so they're more equipped and they're more knowledgeable about product. So that means the price point is usually more higher, because in that regard. But then I get, people that look like me that come in and it's interesting. Okay, so it's two sides to this. So
man, don't be all soft with this. No, because you're trying to be political.
There's two sides of it because I did have somebody who, before I even opened, he was my first customer. I was putting up pictures. He said, "This your shit?" Like, and he was like proud. Yeah, like proud. Whatever the price of that coat is, I'm paying that. I've gotten a number of customers like that, different age ranges, that are like, I take pride in wearing this, and I think that's what we saw since the pandemic, since 2020. People like black-owned products. That's why, like, now on Google, you can put black-owned business, you can put all these different things, because it gives you a sense of validation. That's why Target did a whole campaign about all the black-owned brands. But then there's this other audience that because they look like you, they can't see themselves paying over a certain amount for something, and they would go elsewhere, to Somerset Mall and pay 3 times that price. Not bad. There's no flinch about it at all. That's the issue for me, because that's why I think a lot of brands like the Sean Johns, the Rockaware, they didn't stand the test of time because they knew they would only be able to scale only so much with people that look like them. And you have a brand like a Tommy Hilfiger that build off our culture, you know what I mean? That utilize our influencers, our artists. Snoop Dogg, I think, was one of the first people like to work. They utilize our culture. But if Tommy was up the street, it probably wouldn't have popped up the same. So that's always the issue for me. And I think it's I told someone last week it's a survival mentality of we see someone make it that looks like us, and we can't see ourselves helping to make them rich. But it's on the flip side, and music is different because look what all those things that Jay-Z owns that we go and buy. We got Tidal, we bought the Deuce, we did all this stuff because we knew Jay-Z was attached to it. But then it goes back to why we consume luxury brands. We're buying a lifestyle. Jay-Z sells you a lifestyle about luxury. So that's where I'm learning the psychology around it. And clothing is just hard because I know some incredible designers that lowball their prices because they're just trying to get people to look like them. I'm like, bro, they ain't your audience no more. It's not, you know. And when they see it pop off and they see somebody else wear it on TV, watch how fast they gravitate towards it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're providing a quality service, quality product, right, it's like, why wouldn't I want to pay? Ken, sometimes Ken gets frustrated with me. We go places to some of the black-owned businesses in Detroit, and sometimes people want to give us a discount because they love what we do in Detroit. I'm like, no, I don't want a discount. I want to pay what it costs, right? Like, I don't even sign up for those little membership rewards things because when I come in here, I want to patronize. I know how hard it is, right? As soon as you walk out, like, so what's up with that discount?
But just that's why we're circulating the black dollar. You know what I mean? And that's I feel pride in it. I mean, when I'm looking at the restaurant, I'm like, where's the black-owned restaurants? Yeah. Because I know how much they struggled during the pandemic, you know, versus the other businesses that got, you know, PPE loans and things like that. But it's I mean, I think it's just through an audience. People that will pay more, don't give me a discount, but then there's other artists that challenges, even restaurants too. They're like, hey, they prices this much, but I'm like, all these other restaurants popped up.
Again, you all are providing amazing products, services, and experiences. Right? It's like, I'm not getting anything less when I come to you. So why do I want to pay less? Right? I think we all have received the messaging very loud and clear that Ken is not worth as much as the white version, right? Or the other version, right? Even if it's not white, if it's not something else. We all have received that messaging loud and clear. And if I come, and even though I come here, I should get a hookup. And it's like, yo, man, what about your bills? At the end of the day, you know what I mean? And like what I hear when I was a business owner is you don't care if my business survives or not. You just care that you get this service from me at a discounted rate, right? Like I had people that were close to me that like if I gave them a real price, they would pay somebody else the same price. And I'm like, but dude, like, this is how my kids eat. You know what I mean? So you're going to go spend the money with somebody else that you don't know instead of paying me the fair price, you know, and I, you know, close friends and family. Like, I didn't do a lot of work with close friends and family. And after a while, I was like, I just don't really want to. You know what I mean?
And I think it's interesting. I think it's, again, a lot of what Ken was saying earlier is that mindset of not wanting to invest in people that look like you. When he said it like that, it was just, that really rung out to me. Because even if you like before I was comparing like Sean John to Gucci, and that's different luxury brands, but even just compare it to Polo and Tommy Hilfiger, right? And it's like, there's no way Sean John shouldn't have done as well as those brands, especially with how big of an icon he is.
He got me to like Tommy Hilfiger. That's what helped him started. And he made suits, he made everything. He did the playbook he got from him, and it did not scale the same way. Because he was a black man.
And because I would have my boys, they would wear Polo, and I was like, dog, why you buy no Sean John? Oh, I ain't wearing no Sean John.
Because they look like
but you got on Polo, like.
It's their lifestyle,
right?
And that's the thing, and that's kind of me, like the brander, like the strategist, the marketer. Me, after when I'm telling other businesses, I said, build the lifestyle, what you're doing, but make it beyond the product, the photography, the video, the events. Like when you start doing that, people are like, oh, this is, you know, I had people walking in my store like, oh, this is a store. Like they thought it was just about to be some rest. I'm like, no, bro, like the lighting, the fixtures, the bells. Because I know it's a lifestyle, and I would study, in those 3-year period. I would go to New York, Soho, Hudson Yards. I went to the Beverly Center, and I would just take pictures, bro. I had like a whole Pinterest, bro. I'm like, okay, this is what a store's supposed to be.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I'll tell you, I have a great sense of pride when I come in. I can't wait to come and see your store. But I think about, you know, some of the stores that we go in, 313, Crispy Addicts, you know, like Good Cookies, Rosa, you know what I mean, Detroit Sip. When I see, like, the space that y'all create, right, where I am coming in, I am getting the whole experience, right, I'm getting to engage with people that are welcoming and inviting, but y'all have gone above and beyond and created a space that feels welcoming to me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So shout out to you for like doing that, and I really respect and appreciate that. I think that we're going to have to wrap up soon. Ken, do you have any more questions for Ken at all?
No other questions. Again, just respect the hard work that you're doing. Like I said, I've been watching you around the city. That's why we had you on the show. We just saw you last. Like, hey, this brother's doing it. Let's get him on the show to talk about his brand. I knew you had just opened up a brick and mortar at that time, so we wanted to give you an opportunity to promote that. Because again, as I see, black brands and how important it is for us to support black brands and the hard work that you're doing versus giving money to other folk. It's just very important to support. So I really wanted to have you on the show. So I appreciate that you came by to holler at us. Appreciate the work that you're doing. I am going to be looking for a discount though. So you know what I mean.
Well, we got 40% off everything in the store now.
Oh, okay, well, I'm just do like
this season
Just do it. The furniture stores do mark it up. Discount sign on the way you see them coming in. If you can take us out with this. I know you talked about, making the, how'd you put it, the past Ken or the young Ken proud. Yeah. If you're speaking to some of the students at DSA, who my son's just happened to be one, some of the creatives that these ideas and visions are forming in them, if you were speaking to the camera and say something to them, what would it be?
Start with what you have, and trust your gut, because usually intuitively we know exactly what we want, and when you're young, you're waiting for the world to tell you what you should do. And I knew at 14 I was going to be a fashion designer, but I went to college, I became a marketer. I thought it was, it was just all these things that I was waiting to be validated, but your only validation is your intuition. And I think now it is more accessible and easier for younger people to become entrepreneurs with what they have. With the power of the internet and social media, you can start a clothing brand and start selling it and start learning, but also be open to feedback. Like, let people, give you feedback about what, especially as a creative. I think we get so caught up in it has to be perfect, and we are, not open to refining it based on feedback. But every marketer will tell you that you have to use data from what people are telling you. I started as a menswear brand, and now we are a gender neutral brand because women are 80% of my sales. Mm-hmm. If they ain't buying it for themselves or men are I learned that women are the decision makers for any product category. But also I learned that younger people with the internet, you're immediately getting feedback, comments, you're getting likes, shares. So take advantage of all that stuff, and just put it out to the world, and don't keep passion bottled up.
Yeah. So it sounds like that. Don't let the comments and the feedback discourage you. Let it inform you. Yeah, that's good. I appreciate it.
Let your haters be your motivators.
That's it. That's what I use Ken for.
We gotta go over there. Cause we trying to move into him and I. We still we're older. Getting the skinny pants. We're gonna have to come over there. And skinny pants. It's me. I survived it. How's where they going to now?
It's a segmented group of people who wear skinny.
So what are they going to now? What's the next thing? So we can get ahead of it.
Honestly, it's very interesting now where I was telling someone it's a trend where people they want to dress up more. So we went through this athleisure phase where everybody wants to wear sweatpants and wear, stuff you wear everywhere. But classic, fit shit is really coming back. Wearing a suit, wearing some something tailored, it really stands out.
I blame Eric Thomas for that.
Yeah, right. I blame Eric Thomas for that. I'm just seeing there's a very segmented group of people that wear skinny jeans. Usually they're celebrities, rock stars, really younger guys, but I really see a lot of 30-year-old men and up really putting that shit on, really dressing up, looking presentable. I have younger guys that I mentored that literally I see them playing with different colors, but they still keeping it classic as well. So it's really interesting, how it's changing.
What's up? Thanks for keeping us.
We ain't went back to the really baggy thing, no. We ain't going back. I don't think we're going to
I'm still wearing the hoopah shirt. I worked out. I still got some of my gym bag. What I said, y'all heard it from Ken. and Ken and Dewan. This episode will speak for yourself. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. I'll ask y'all to like and subscribe if you enjoying the content of hip hop. Like and subscribe. Peace.